Are we ready? Alright, it is 4:01 Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. We're going to call the meeting to order. It's like first order of business is signing of the minutes for 10/22/24, 11/13/24, and 11/15/24.
I have printed out all of the minutes and went through them. I found several mistakes and some typos. I've gone through and marked them, but as is, I'm not okay with approving them. I mean, I can show you all the things I have found, but I'm not going to go through all of them because there's quite a few.
Okay.
But I circled them all, highlighted them. I think some things were just like misuse of words and possibly misspellings. A couple things that were omitted. But I circled.
On November 13th, I want added in under number 3 where I moved that there was no finding for an election. I'd also like it put in there where I was wanting to ask questions. I didn't just come across that lightly. So I think in the video it shows that I was wanting to ask questions but was not allowed to. So I would like to have that put in the minutes.
Who denied you to ask questions?
Huh?
Who denied you asking questions?
Zach.
Just so I have the minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wanted to ask questions and basically told me no.
Yeah.
You have a confused look on your face.
I wasn't at that meeting, so
I know. Okay.
And like I said, mine, I can just give you my copies if that's easier. Because I just circled where there's just mistakes that could be, or it could be read differently if someone were to read the minutes. So I want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah. Sorry. It's very hard to say tables.
Is that for all of them, or do you?
Yeah, I gave her all 3 copies.
Okay, so we're not going to approve any of them?
No. I mean, you guys can if you want. I'll be a no.
Can I get a motion?
To not sign the minutes?
you can table them. You can,
Yep. I would say table till the next time. I'll make a motion to table the signing of the minutes till our next meeting.
Okay. Do you want to second that, Michelle?
Oh, I'm looking at her real quick, what she has. Is it mainly just typos?
There's typos and some things in there, like a couple of things that are worded, like the wrong word, which if the wrong word is in place of a word that should be there, it makes it have a different meaning. I'll be happy to send you the copy on my computer that has the edits like highlighted. That's just the ones I wrote as I printed it off.
Yeah, we can table these until, and I'll get the typo corrections.
So I will make that unanimous. We are tabling 10/22, 11/13, and 11/15 minutes to be corrected.
Is the only one that you had was the November?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we would like to welcome
We should have done
Pat
that first.
McGrath
No worries. Yep, Pat McGrath, yeah.
as our election board county attorney. Thank you for accepting and being here.
Pleasure. Yep.
We heard you're the man.
I don't know where you heard that. Yeah, no, so as I mentioned, I think when I chatted about joining, I work over in Madison, and so that means that I may not be able to attend in person for every one of the meetings, but my understanding is you might have Zoom capabilities or phone call capabilities, so depending on what's on your agenda, and I understand that, particularly if there's a hearing or something, I'll be here in person, but if it's a day-to-day business operations, if I can do it remotely, that'll probably be easier.
Okay.
And I don't claim to have the entirety of the election law in my head because there is way too much of it.
There's a lot.
But I am
lot.
good at research, and so even if
Ted guys here.
You'll have to wait. I'm in meeting till 5. He's supposed to just leave samples.
He has some.
Okay.
but yeah, so I may not always know the answer right on the spot, but I'm usually pretty good at being able to go find it. So
Good, because we had some issues where a lot of interpretation.
yeah, I'm aware of the issues that are on the agenda for today that have some interpretation issues. I know the election division, it's
Confused us.
unfortunate when they split. Yeah, that makes it more difficult. But I've done some research on that. We can chat about those issues too. So.
Yeah, that's one I have a concern about because we don't really know what to do with this
Sure.
when they don't agree. It makes it difficult.
Okay. All right, so next we're going to talk about the CFA4s and disbanding.
Yep. So I think I mentioned in an email that I was contacted by the Democratic Club, but I think that was with regard to potential violation allegations, and not with regard to the disbanding question.
Right.
So I'm cool to talk about that, and then on the when we get to the absentee ballots, I'll have to just kind of talk more generally and probably not specifically about specifics. But so that one, the disbanding, you guys got two different opinions from the Indiana Election Division. And unfortunately, when that happens, they can't provide firm legal advice. But kind of the upshot when that happens is it means that it's a situation that that hasn't come up often enough or hasn't been litigated enough that that at least the election division is not aware of any case law on the issue or direct statutory authority that would just yes, no the situation. And while that doesn't sound like a good thing because it leaves you kind of in gray space, overall it means that the law is still sort of developing there, which never ceases to amaze me how often that's the case. Despite the fact that there's a huge body of law about elections and about the election process, there's still lots of unanswered questions. But having read through it, and in particular having read the position from, let me get his name wrong. Is it Matt?
Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah, he's the one that kind of came around and said, yeah, I don't really totally agree. And his position was that, essentially that the code requires that a candidate who files to be on the ballot must have a committee. And then he went on to say that there's a code section that says that a committee can be disbanded at any time. And I reviewed those code sections, and overall, in the end, I agree with him. And so here's why. The section he's referring to does say that it can be disbanded at any time, and it does specifically provide that it can be disbanded at the request. If the chairman or the treasurer of the committee wishes to disband the committee, then they have to go through this procedure, which includes giving written notice and transferring the surplus of any contributions to one of these specific categories. So anything that they have that's still in their accounts has to go to either one of the one or more regular party committees, one or more candidate committees, the election division, an organization exempt from 501, and contributors to the committee on a pro rata basis. So there is a process there that clearly outlines that there is potential for dissolving, for disbanding the committee. So then the question becomes, well then, the recommendation from the other side was that, well, if they're in office, then how do you know whether or not they're continuing to collect money or not? But overall, the other section he points out is that was Indiana Code 3915, and under that code section, he points out that it is each candidate is required to have a principal committee. So the distinction there is the person a candidate or not? Because if they're a candidate, they have to have a committee. If they're not a candidate, they don't have to have a committee. And there's some other, the candidate also has to be for a position that earns that's compensated for at least $5,000 per year. And there's another provision that says if they're taking in more than $100 in election contributions. But again, the key question is it a candidate? And so Matt's position essentially is once you're elected, you're not technically a candidate anymore because you've already won the election. And I tend to agree. Now, obviously, if you're running for re-election, you become a candidate again, and at that point, you would need to reform your committee. And so arguably, it probably makes the most sense for an elected official who plans to run for re-election to keep their committee open rather than dissolving the committee and reopening. But that's more pragmatic than it is legally required. And the other part that he doesn't reference, but I think helps support it, is that there is actually a definition for candidate, and that's found in a different section, but it's 3526, and it outlines that a candidate is a person who has taken the necessary action to qualify under Indiana law for listing on the ballot, or as a write-in candidate has publicly announced or declared they are a candidate for elected office or otherwise seeks the nomination. And then that's the one that goes on to say that if they're receiving more than $100 in contributions or making more than $100 in expenditures, which is one of the things that he kind of references. So that's a definition for a candidate, which does not in and of itself include elected officials. And I mention that because there's another section that doesn't apply to this. It's specifically with regard to use of digitally altered media, which is, it's still within the campaigns section, but it's not with regard to the campaign financing rules. And in that section, it defines candidate, and it cites back to 3526. So it says, hey, candidate here has the same definition as there. But then it also says, for the purposes of this chapter, it also includes a federal or state office, including a federal state legislative office, a school board, or a local office. So in other words, the point is that the definition that applies to campaign financing just says a candidate is someone who's announced, basically that they're going to be running. But then there's another section that applies to all digitally altered electronics that says, okay, in this section, that definition applies, and basically if you're an elected official, then you're also considered a candidate for this purpose. The point is, generally speaking, when the legislature defines something and they show the ability to separate that definition in two different ways, candidate means this way here, candidate means plus elected officials here, then the absence of that addition in our section means it doesn't include elected officials. So it's a long way of saying that my position is that I think Matt's analysis is correct, that only candidates are required to have a campaign committee, and that once they are no longer a candidate, whether because they drop out of whether they lay out the election or because they win the election, so long as they don't have their name on the ballot or they haven't announced essentially that they are planning to run for re-election or run for election, then the committee can be dissolved either administratively through the election board or through the process of the trustee. That was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, was it one or two that needed to disband or did not disband?
So if they have, so there's a process by which you can administratively disband them. That is that's 39112, and I think I'm trying to remember what it provides. I think it provides if they have not filed. So if they are not requesting the dissolution themselves, so if the campaign committee is not on its own requesting to disband, because that's one way that it can happen, then it can happen through you. And so if they haven't filed any report of expenditures during the previous 3 calendar years, that's one. Yeah, so this is what it says. It says not later than the last Friday of January each year, the election division or county election board shall review the list of committees that have filed statements of organization with the division or board under the article. If you determine that both of the following are true, then you may begin a proceeding to disband the committee. If the committee has not filed a report of expenditures for the previous 3 calendar years, and the committee last reported cash on hands in an amount that does not exceed $1,000 if the committee filed the report under this article, then the election division shall provide notice of the proceeding by certified mail to the last known address of the chairman. The commission may then issue an order administratively dissolving the committee if the commission or board makes the following findings, that there's no evidence that the committee continues to receive contributions, make expenditures, or otherwise function as a committee, and according to the best evidence available, the commission or the board, the dissolution of the committee will not impair any contract or impede any collection of debt or judgment. So there's a process for administrative dissolution, and it starts with if they haven't filed in the last 3 years. I mean, and if they haven't asked to dissolve and they're just not filing, then there's the fine provisions that kick in for failing to make their filings.
Doesn't it also kind of put in there as well too? I was reading that in the back of the yellow book the other day, because after so many times of them being possibly late or not turning it in, it's like getting blood from a turnip, right? We're not going to collect
Yes.
that money, so it allows us to just be done with it.
Yep. There's a provision that specifically allows that if you determine that you dissolve the committee and you determine that the prudent use of public resources to make further efforts of collecting the outstanding civil penalty would be wasteful or unjust, that you can waive the civil penalty. So, yeah. Well, I mean, so that's when you get to that. So basically, the idea that they're setting out is over the course of those 3 years, if they're not going to do it on their own, and they're also not turning in their forms, then you fine them, and then you can dissolve them, and then when you dissolve them, you can decide whether or not you're going to waive the fines or not.
Okay.
So how many of those do we have?
With the council or with the election board doing the dissolvement, potentially one.
Is it the same one that signed the paper?
No, it would be a candidate that turned in they have disbanded now with this last CFA 4, but I don't know if you guys have done your audit for the CFA 4s that I've sent this past.
I've got a list of everyone.
Yeah, so Bill Hoagland has been fined many years, and he's not been, there's not been any.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Is it okay if I close the door?
I don't think we're allowed to.
I don't think we're allowed to. And I don't,
Can we like leave it cracked maybe?
Yeah. Let me see if there's
doors are he has disbanded, but he was late again on his.
I saw that one come through the other day.
Yeah, and so I think that we might have a potential of, which he has disbanded now, but I think that would have been a potential of us maybe disbanding for him.
Mm-hmm.
But since he has put in his paperwork and he's disbanded now, I think it's the fact of he realizes he's just not gonna. So he did that.
How far back did his go?
He's been annual for a while. He's been annual ever since I've been in office. So
Okay.
2022. But I mean, like I said, as of his filing, and I don't remember exactly what date he sent it in last week. I think it was Friday, whatever Friday was. He did disband on that one though.
Okay.
Which then took away that thing of like us disbanding for him, so.
So yeah, it was sent out on January 24th.
But then for the one that signed up for running and then withdrew, they had already disbanded their previous, they were a council member and they had already disbanded that committee before, and so when they signed up to run as this 2024 election cycle, they created a new committee and then they withdrew, and they never did disband for that committee that they signed up for the new election cycle of the 2024 election cycle. But they had already disbanded for their previous council cycle.
But they still have one open from 2024.
They have disbanded now.
Oh, they have
so
disbanded.
the thing that the election board was trying to figure out is if we have to assess them a fine or a fee, because they did not disband when they withdrew from their candidacy.
Yeah. I mean, so technically the statute says that it specifically provides for waiving the civil penalty when it goes through an administrative dissolution. Administrative dissolvement. I would say that the spirit of the statute makes it pretty clear that, you know, you have the authority to waive those
Right.
civil penalties.
Right. I think, does it say for like I can't remember what it's for, like extreme circumstances.
Extenuating circumstances.
Extenuating, yes.
Because we've done it for a couple
Yes.
with some things in the past.
I mean, the statute says prudent use of public resources makes further efforts to collect any outstanding civil penalty imposed against the committee wasteful or unjust.
Right.
And I think for both of these, they've already done the disbandment. It's not that, it's just,
Still open out there.
yeah, no, they've both done disbandment. It's just trying to figure out the,
Okay. Right. So I'm sorry, Chairwoman. I'm not trying to.
We're in this together.
Not trying to step on anybody's toes.
So should we go by each one, and
Well,
should we do it one at a
let me
person
ask
at a time?
this question. We still have to decide on the ones from 11:15 as well as the ones that she just sent us. So we would have to talk about the ones from 11:15 and the people that showed up for their hearing, and then we have new ones for this meeting, right?
I don't know if you guys have had your chance to audit and edit or do your look on the ones that I just sent you. Nobody let me know if they had looked at those until you just said just now that you had looked at it, but I don't know if Teresa's had a chance to look over those.
Yeah, I've been looking over them too.
Yeah, I went through all of them and wrote all the ones that I found in there that were late. And I also made a list of the ones I didn't see in there at all. So. But we also have 11:15 to deal with too. So I don't know what, I'm just throwing that out there.
What's the easiest route?
What happened on 11:15?
We had hearings for people who were late. They came in.
Gotcha.
Did our hearings. There were the people that showed up. They pled their case. My only thing moving forward, as I would rather be more proactive on some things, is that I feel personally that if you take your time out of work to come here to our meeting, no matter what time of day we have it, and you show up to plead your case, I feel like we should knock a little bit off of the fine. That's how I feel about it.
Oh.
Like, however many days late or whatever. I know it's $50 a day. Well, to me, if we have our meeting at noon on a Friday, and by the time we get to our business and it's 1:30 and someone has sat here that long missing work to come tell us why they were late, the reason why a lot of times is because they were just late and they forgot to do it. But for me personally, I feel like if you make that effort and you're coming in here and you're not going back to work on time, or we're keeping you here, then I feel like that you should get credit for coming here to the hearing, because I don't feel like if you don't make the effort that you should have the same treatment. Like if someone comes in here and says, I was late, I'm sorry, they made the effort to come in here and tell us that, as opposed to somebody who was also late and never even bothered to say anything, to me, I think the effort should count for something. But that's just me.
So you had people who were late on their filing, were being fined, and came in to plead their case as to why they were late.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't show up for a hearing.
Gotcha.
But I feel like those who did should get credit for that.
So on the flip end of that, we have had these hearings before, and we have had multiple candidates come in and show up and plead their case, and we did not give them a discount or a credit. Those candidates were charged the full $50 a day, and so I feel like if we change our processes, because we said that there was going to be consistency starting in 2023, or no, the annual of 2022 is when we started consistency, and we started charging the $50 a day. We had talked to both party chairs, and they both agreed that the candidates are responsible for this, and I feel like if we do that this time, we are going to have candidates who were charged full fees and that did show up to meetings have an issue with that with the election board, and then request that they get those discounts, because we had Bill Hoagland has always showed up to Monty Stutzman.
I think I see what you're saying. I absolutely
and so
agree with that.
I don't want to set us up for any kind of
also think moving,
litigation or things along those from candidates that had that in the past and didn't get that.
well, I think it would have to be set in some sort of resolution or policy moving forward to do that. That being said, I don't disagree with what you just said, because we were doing that in the past and consistent, but I don't also have an issue with improving and doing things better and being more proactive in the future. So just because we set a precedent before doesn't mean we can't change our mind. That's just me though. You guys can disagree with me all you want, and I'm totally okay with that. That's just my opinion.
I don't think it's a disagreement, I just see it differently.
I don't know that anybody's really gonna come back at us on that. It's possible.
Chris, and I'm trying to remember, so I mean, maybe if we decide to do this as a board, we set up some kind of, like I said, I don't think it's a disagreement, I just think it's seeing the opposite side of it, that if they do come back, that then we've made some kind of accommodation to give them that discount. And that would be a question that we need to ask the auditor, if we could give that refund back and apply that same discount to them, since the ones that did show up. Like, I just think that we just need to think of that other opposite side of it. Does that make sense?
It does, and I thought about that too before I even felt that way. But I also, I feel like it's better public relations, even on our part, to say, down the road, thank you, we appreciate it, you took the effort to come in here. We recognize that. And if anybody in the past wants to come in and question that, I'm okay with giving them a discount too. But I feel like moving forward, that looks better on our part to be proactive.
I just, if we are gonna do the discount or whatever we thought, we just need to make sure that we're able to do that through the auditor and through like that kind of thing, so. Cause I mean, I know two of us have been candidates on this board, and if we got charged and showed up and took our time on our day and then it changed midstream, I'm just trying to think of like all perspectives.
No, I agree with that too.
And being consistent.
I'm just thinking moving forward, if that's something we want to look at, and that doesn't even have to be something we vote on today. I just wanted to throw my thoughts on it out there.
Okay, so do we want to say that in the future we will look at doing that, or are you wanting to apply it to these now? Since we didn't the first time.
I think for consistency's sake, that we potentially don't apply it, but then we make it a big and if we're gonna move forward and change policy, make it forward and change policy, but stay consistent within this election cycle.
I think that's because we don't have an election in 2025 would be
Right,
the time
and we
from
could
after
work-
we're done with these to change it. I think that's a good idea.
That's a better thing of like, since 2025 is a off year.
Right. I think we would have to pass a resolution for that though.
That's the
Yes, I
next
mean,
question.
yes, you absolutely, we
Yeah,
absolutely
we do.
would. We would. and
Actually, I wasn't thinking that. I know that. I was just putting that out there.
But I think for consistency's sake of, this election cycle and what has been done in the past, and then since there was this off year, maybe then we can reach out to the party chairs and be like, hey, the election board came up with a different idea that maybe will work better for candidates, will work better for the community. Since there's an off year, I think that's a better way maybe to do that within that
And
cycle.
hopefully this year will be more education.
You lead a horse to water.
Well, I mean, Mr. Wilson is here. I know that I sent out text messages to both party chairs on, was it the Saturday the 6th? I don't remember what day I sent those text messages, just for them to remind candidates again.
I've already sent one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours
Recommend
early
the
this
second January.
Yeah, so as the clerk, I sent out the Saturday before to the party chairs to say, hey, remind all of your candidates and all of your people, these are due again. And the party chairs, they notify people of it. But like, as Mr. Wilson said, they can't babysit everybody or can't lead.
That's right.
What'd you
What
say?
about-
If you're
Horse to
gonna run
water
for it, you need to know what
What
you're
about
doing.
school board candidates who aren't a party? Do they get a text too? Because they're nonpartisan. So do they get, since they don't fall in either of those groups, do they get a separate text?
So both of the parties, so I would have texted them, yes, but they had already took care of their things. We had one and they had already taken care of everything, so I didn't text them because they had already done that.
Well, that's what was one of my questions on the list for this time. I didn't see Dustin McIntosh or Rick Zolman.
So Rick Zolman did not open one. He had former purchase signs is what he told me. So I don't think he even ever opened one. And Mr. McIntosh disbanded immediately after the election with his last annual, or his,
Okay.
he had already disbanded on that. He checked the disbandment on that one.
Okay.
Actually, I'm not sure it applies to school board. So I mean, Indiana.
Well, it's under $500 too, and they don't make
There's that.
500.
Yep, and then plus the 3915, which is the section that requires each candidate to have a principal committee. It starts, this section does not apply to the following candidates: a candidate whose compensation is less than $5,000, and the next one is a candidate for school board office.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't think that the principal committee.
Because I saw some that did turn it in, but they didn't have to then.
So, well, when
Like Melissa did and Darlene did.
when they reached out to, and I'm trying to remember which candidate told me they'd reached out to the election division, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but because the school boards, they make over the $5,000 and they had spent over the.
They make over 5,000?
Scott County School District 2, they told me they did.
They make $1,000.
With their meetings. I don't know, I didn't look into their that's not my job. to
I know
look
it's
into
not.
their
I'm just saying they don't.
But they said that they had compensation over that, and then with what they spent for their signs and
More than
like
100.
T-shirts and stuff like that, it was over the amount, and so they said that they felt like they needed to file it, and
That's surprising.
I can't deny a filing coming in.
No, I mean, if they want to file it,
I don't
file it. I mean, it's
think that you should deny
Yeah,
it. I just
so-
thought it was interesting. Some of them had them and some of them didn't. But because they wouldn't have qualified then to really have to turn that in.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the statute, I mean, this is the same statute that the election division cited when we were talking about this earlier. I mean, like, it starts out with, the section does not apply to a candidate for school board office. So I would be surprised that they require, I mean, it's certainly probably good policy. I mean, like, overall, it's probably a good idea. But
I've seen a lot of things since being on this board and dealing with all the election law where it's written differently in different places. It's not always consistent.
Good point. Yeah, it's possible.
And they came to me and filed it, so I was like,
Oh yeah, you should accept it. I mean, they
Yeah.
can. There's nothing that prevents them from doing it. I mean, I'm just not sure they.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anyone. That's
So the school board, the ones that had done it, had already reached out, and there was Suspensky. I did reach out to her, but she disbanded on that. So there was.
okay. So I guess for the ones from the 15th, we just need to move forward with sending them their fine and letter. That should be where we're at, I think, right, Teresa?
Yes, Ms. Suspensky disbanded on 10/24/24. She hit the disband on that when she filed that last one.
I've got one pulled up in here.
I must be missing, is there another? Is there another one of these? Did I miss that?
For what?
The one I have is for the election 23. If they
I
turn in
emailed you all the current, I emailed you the ones that after that meeting, I emailed them.
The ones that you sent us in one, whatever that's called, share OneDrive.
I couldn't get it, and I was like, I'm just, yeah. No, but the chart that she has, I emailed you that after the, was it the 15th meeting?
Well, I had this at the 15th meeting, I think.
I emailed
because
you
I got-
the current one after the 15th email.
Because I got checked who came to the 15th meeting.
I think the date's just wrong at the top. The date's just wrong at the top.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, it's not. It's just the date's wrong at the top.
Crap, where did I miss that?
Because I've got my list pulled up too. It's just the wrong date.
Okay. All right. So we go, I just lost that one. So the ones that are highlighted. We just start at the top and go through and figure out who's doing how much?
Yeah.
Okay. What was my date? So, let's see if I did this right. Jonathan White.
Right, and he came to his hearing. He said he just forgot.
Yeah. And he turned it in a day late, right?
It says 10 turned in 10:29.
Oh, so 11 days late.
Yeah. Right? It says turned in 10:29. So he would have to get a letter for his fine.
So 11 days late.
Well, the day it's considered the day it's afternoon, that's considered day one.
So 10 days late.
It was due on the 18th.
So 11 days.
So 11 days.
Do you want the files, like the actual hand files?
I mean, as long as this list is good, I wrote down. I believe I wrote down. I'm just asking for clarification from
I think she's
you all to make sure that I'm getting these dates right and I'm not missing something.
I think she's just asking to check what she's saying. Like
So kind of like reverse.
before we sit here and say he was 11 days late, this is his fine. She just wants I'm going off of my list too. She just wants you to confirm that that's what you have as well. Right?
I have Jonathan White turned his in on 10/29/24, and I have that is,
And it was due on the 18th. So we start on the 19th.
no, you start the 18th afternoon.
Okay.
12/01 is day one.
Okay, well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
All right.
So 11 days. And then Deborah Hubbard was 10/25.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have on the list.
8 days late.
Yep. And then
John Lisenby.
I don't see. Nope, it's the one above him. Keith Henderson. Turned his in on the 28th. John's was on the 17th. Keith Henderson is on the 28th.
Okay, sorry about that, John. In case you watch us. All right, so Keith Henderson.
So 12 days late. It's the 18th, right? What's the due date?
Yes. No.
That would be 10 days.
10.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the one above it.
I had to get a ruler.
Good.
These lines are so tiny.
I know, that's why I had to like.
See, that's why I needed help, people.
I had to
Okay.
get like a thing to like separate the lines. I have Keith Henderson, 10/28/24, 10 days.
10 days. Okay, that's what I got. Okay. Brandon Stagnolia.
Did he ever turn one in? Because I don't see a date next to this.
I have
10/25.
Okay.
10/25/24, he was 8 days disbanded.
Okay.
Okay. And then I have Marvin Robinson.
I have 10/27.
Yes. So that is 9 days.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yep. Brad Stotts, right? Is that who you have next?
Yep. Yeah, I'm next.
He came to the hearing. I have 11-1, is that right?
That's what I had.
Okay.
That's a long time.
I can't help that high. Just kidding.
That's 15 days.
15 days.
Huh?
Who was that one?
Brad Stotts.
It's 15 days is what I have.
Yeah.
If you go back one or two, I don't think Brandon Stagnoli spent any money at all.
He didn't turn in his paperwork.
But he would have been required to in his name anyway.
I would have to go back and see what he spent.
What do you run?
He ran for what? Council? Council? Right?
Hold on, it's on there.
County council?
He's on Alton City Council.
But he ran for county council in the
He ran for
primary.
County council and primary.
I don't think so.
Yeah, he signed up for county council
Yeah.
in the primary.
He did. Came in. We had an altercation, remember?
Alright, next on the list is Shane Deaton. 1028.
Yes, I'm.
Yep, that's what I have.
So that would make him 10 days late.
Is that it? I don't. Hang on.
And then
Or another page.
Nope, done. Sorry.
there's the school board, Jean Ann Sispinski-Schaller, where but I guess that goes back into the interpretation of she's running for an office, but she spent over the money that was allowed in that, so I guess that's.
If she's got a committee, she's got to file the paperwork committee. Is that the question?
No.
So she didn't sign up a committee, but then she
Oh.
came in and she turned in a CFA 4 form because she had spent money on stuff, and when she'd spent the money on it, it was past the deadline.
Oh, yeah, then, yeah.
So, but she's school board, so.
Yeah, the school board just applies to whether or not you have to create a committee and not whether or not you need to do reporting, so.
Okay. So what date? What's the date? Where's that at? Is it on the second page?
It's candidate 49. So.
I see it down here now.
So the 24th.
8 days.
Some things ain't adding up. So if they turned it in on the 25th, it was 8 days. But if they turned it on the 24th, is it still 8 days?
And I could have just counted wrong. I mean, it could be a typo on trying to.
I'm trying to make sure we got
So,
this.
20, so if it's due on the 18th, then I didn't get it till the 7 days.
7 days.
Then
We go down to. Oh. Okay, then we go down to,
wait. What about BJ Best? It says 1021. Day over 500.
where's he at? There. See, that's why we need to do this, because I didn't have it.
10/21/24, and it says he just spent over 500.
So he was 4 days late.
Well, so that's a great question because he reported the day he spent. He came in and filed. Like he had not spent any money. He hadn't went over the money. And then on the day that he went over the money, he came in and he filed his report. So the day he had not exceeded the amount, but when he exceeded the amount, he came in and filed the day he spent over the amount to report for that period.
So he hadn't exceeded it by the 18th, but he had by the 21st. That's what you're saying? When he came in, he would have come in on the 21st? Because that's what it said, 10/21/24.
BJ Best. Yes, so the 18th is when it was due, and so he did not file a report because he had not exceeded the amount.
He wasn't required to on the 18th.
Right, he wasn't required to because he had not spent over that amount. But when he spent over the amount, he reported the day he spent over the amount on that report.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like he was delinquent then, because if it wasn't required to turn in on the 18th.
Okay.
And so he filed, when he spent over the 500, he came in and instantly filed his report for that day.
But how do we know that? How do we know that he spent 500 at 3 days later? Like he's exceeded that amount 3 days later, and it wasn't just that he didn't file it on the 18th.
He had the receipt for the candy that he bought for the trick-or-treat stuff.
Okay. And we have that on file in his thing. I saw it in this time, so I'm just assuming it's the same. I can go back and look. Never mind. I'll look at that.
He showed me the receipts
Okay.
of what he did.
I just want to make sure we have proof and not just going on hearsay.
I can go grab his file real quick if you want.
I have it on here. I'll look at it.
All right, so pass that one. Then we have the Democrat Central Committee.
You're up.
Supposed to be turned in. So nobody filed a report in April between the two committees. And they both turned it in November. They were due April 19th, 2024. Democrats turned theirs in 11/14/24. Republicans turned theirs in 11/13/24.
The maximum is $1,000. So I mean, we stopped counting after 20 days.
Right.
And then the 8th, and then like a separate report, is that right? The separate report was supposed to be turned in October 18th. And the Democrat Club turned theirs in on October 21st.
Is that right?
So is that two separate
Two
things?
separate reports, right? Yeah.
You have your
That's two.
pre-primary and your pre-election.
Okay, so they get the max.
I'm getting, I feel like I'm desire to see it. It's so tiny. I need cheaters.
There's gotta be a Zoom feature, right?
There is. And
that was for.
I'm trying to look at both pages at the same time.
19th, 24, and then Democrats for October 18th.
What? Do you have any comments about that?
4 days. Okay. And then,
That looks like it's it.
Now, Central Committee has filed all their reports, right?
Yes, I saw them in this batch.
Okay. And the Democrat Club has done what we have said we would do up until, we don't know, I mean, we're not gonna go back 20 years and file reports. I mean, we're just not gonna do it.
right.
I mean, we can't do it, not
Right.
just that we're not going to, we can.
We don't really have the means to do that.
Right.
So I think they went back and they've got some of the reports. We're up to date on what we're gonna do. We're not sure what we're gonna do right now because apparently we don't exist. No one ever filed to the Secretary of State's office for the Democrat Club. So there was a link on one of the emails I got, or a newsletter or something, where you'd click, and if your name was on there, you had to file out a financial report. Well, our name wasn't on there because no one ever filed out a organizational paper. So our name wasn't on here. I looked, I didn't see how that, well, apparently we are not above whatever threshold it was or whatever, so we just kind of ignored that. But then we find out that I guess we are, so we're trying to get that figured out.
That was my question. So where are you in the process of having your organization filed with the state?
We've not done anything.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. Do you,
We don't know whether we need to file an organizational paper for the old Democrat club or file for a new Democrat club. And nobody seems to be aware of what we need to do.
What did the attorney advise? Your attorney advise on it?
I heard that they were on both sides. They hadn't really decided what we should do yet.
Who is they?
The attorney of the state.
well, that was for the issue earlier with the interpretation. Like, you didn't fall under that one, but like, you still have to set up your committee. But which,
Do we do it with the old, or do we do it for a new committee?
well, not that I don't know.
I don't either. Well, just what-
I thought you had an attorney working on that for you, so nobody's reached out to me with anything, so I don't. Missy
Nope.
and Jim came
Again,
in.
nobody reached out to me either, so.
Yeah,
you know,
Missy and Jim came in and fine. I will say that me and Missy, reached out to the state yesterday about a couple of things. Because we were trying to figure out exactly like if the Democrat club falls under a regular party or if they fall under a PAC, and we did find out that they do fall under a PAC.
I assume that.
And so, Missy's gonna change the paperwork because she filed it under the regular party committee
For the Democrat club.
for the Democrat club, so she's gonna change that paperwork, which is not a big deal. It's just redoing that paperwork from from the 2 to the 3 form. But
Okay,
talking.
when we file organizational forms, do we do it under the old Democrat club and file for as a pact?
If it's the club, from the way I and I can't give legal advice,
Right.
but the club would be considered a PAC and not a regular party, so it's a club thing, so.
Well, I think he
Yeah.
understands that part. He's asking, do they file and go back however long because they didn't have any of that in place, or do they start new and file now?
You start new.
I mean, so you should talk to an independent attorney.
I was like, I would talk to your
'Cause,
attorney on
you know,
that.
we can't give legal advice, but, I mean, most likely it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. I mean, because if it hasn't actually been filed with the state yet, then it probably is, you know, just.
Democrat club's been an organization for probably at least 40 years.
Sure,
I
but it's
know
not, but it's not filed with the
that.
state. Right?
They never filed any.
So I mean, like, for all intents and purposes, it's a new filing with the state, one way or the other, most likely.
Okay.
But you should consult with an attorney.
Go ask
The only issue is though, is when
Jim's nephew.
the mailers went out and Miss Lewis asked for the filing for the Democrat club because of the money the club spent for the mailers and stuff, which puts you over that threshold. So I think that at least for the 2024 year, there's got to be something because of the mailer situation of that. So
Okay, we filed that report. I believe that report's been filed.
Yeah, I saw it in there.
yes, that report has been filed. So
And
think
we've talked about it, we will probably be running our financial stuff through the central committee now instead of.
she said some, I don't know, did she talk to you last night about stuff?
We had text go back and forth. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because after the stuff we heard, we talked with, yeah.
But yeah. I'm waiting to hear from somebody of,
What to do?
you know, what to do. I mean, we'll gladly do whatever somebody
Well-
asks us to do.
Well,
but-
and the mailers were interchangeable because some of them said the Democrat Party and some of them said the Democrat Club.
We're doing
So
the
there
same
was,
thing down there with the Democrat Party and not the club.
you could always do it doing business as. Never mind, that's something for another time.
So is
Trying to complicate it, Pat.
Attorney Boswell not still representing the Democrat club on that?
He represented us at that hearing, but we haven't, got any kind of formal relationship with him.
Okay, so, but Denny wants to know
Jim can probably get information.
what to do moving forward to be in compliance.
Yeah.
The filings with the county and the filings with the state are sort of two different entities. So I mean, you should talk to an attorney about making sure that your organization is properly filed with the state. And then if they filed the necessary paperwork for the county as far as the 2024 reporting period,
They have filed, yes.
They did.
yeah, that's probably.
Here's the problem I get into with filing the PAC. My understanding is that PAC can have direct conversations with candidates, and the candidates financial bills on. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know right off the top of my head.
Okay, I mean, that's been my understanding, that there has to be a separation between PAC and the candidates committee.
Usually, yes. I've read that before.
Sounds right. Yeah, I don't. But again,
But there wouldn't have to be that separation between the Democrat Central Committee and the candidates.
no,
No.
or the candidates committee and the candidate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where we've operated in the past, that we would use the Central Committee as a legal organization and the Democrat Club as the financial side of it. But we shouldn't have been doing that.
Probably not.
But we are, I mean, we don't want to be attacked, but we will be. So,
Yeah, it's,
I think get Jared, was it Jared? What was his name? Jim's nephew.
Brad,
Because he does election for Marion County. Just have him do it for you.
yeah,
Just get with him.
okay.
I mean, it's really, yeah. I mean, the election commission is supposed to determine whether or not there's been violations. They're not really, supposed to give advice about how to form it correctly.
So we get to go out and do it on our own, hope we do it right, and then if we don't, we get fined.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. I wonder how that works. So-
No, I mean, like,
But it never goes.
obviously the desire.
And there again, like I say, when we started doing this, we were trying to do this, and then we heard that, hey, they're not sure what this is gonna be. I said, don't go to the work to file this report, please find out what they want. And nobody's been in contact with me about what we're supposed to do. So we've not done anything.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
It's
Nobody
because
knows.
you had an attorney that was representing them.
I thought Brad was taking care of that for you. That's what he said in one of the meetings.
Here.
But then he said the next meeting he would have all that squared away and it would take him about 2 weeks. So I thought he was
I don't-
handling that for
Yeah,
you.
he portrayed it that he was representing the club and he would take care of that and get that file and get that taken.
Okay, I'll check on that.
Yeah, because he did, and you can go back and watch it. I watched it again when I was reviewing the minutes, and he said about 2 weeks and he would have it taken care of. So ask him where he is on that, or if he's done anything.
Okay, I'm not sure that was.
What he meant?
Taking care of the legal side of it, or taking care of the financial report. The financial report, we thought we'd have about 2 weeks. I'm not sure about the legal formation of the forms of the.
Okay, well clarify it with him, and then get back with him, and just get it taken care of.
Alright. 'Cause I knew we talked, when we were talking with Brad before we came over. Brad? I think so. We talked about, he asked us how long it would take us to get those reports together. And we said we thought we could do it in about 2 weeks.
You've got your reports in for this time, so you're good. You just need to
Yeah.
fix that part.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the thing was is that they were trying to see if the reports actually met the thresholds of what needed to be filed with the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, back to our list. With all I've got the numbers down.
Okay. So we could probably do a collective vote on.
So then the only one that we have left to figure out is the candidate that withdrew. Since they withdrew, but they did not close their committee, and they did not. That's the last thing that's on the list of what we need to figure out to do with that.
Okay, but she did come in and sign to disband.
She has disbanded. They have to. Yes, they disbanded on 11/7/24.
11/7.
But there was no pre-primary or pre-election, or they disbanded on 11/7, and the report was due October 18th. So it would be both that are filed, but with the withdrawal, we need to figure out as what we want to do with that. That was that's what we were gonna talk to him about and figure out what he wanted to do, like what he thought legally was the best thing to do with that.
So a little bit on the fly. So there is a statute that actually specifically talks about this penalty provision. And so 39419 provides that notwithstanding all the other sections, on a unanimous vote of the entire membership, the commission, if the commission finds imposition of a civil penalty required to be imposed would be unjust under the circumstances, the commission or board may do either of the following: waive the penalty or reduce the penalty to an amount specified by the commission. So I mean, like, if you guys unanimously decide to waive any potential penalty, you certainly can do that.
And when we came across all this last year, the year before, we had said that we would charge X amount of dollars. And then we went to conference. And conference basically said, correct me if I'm wrong, conference basically said, if you don't follow what's in the book, then we won't have your back.
They don't really have our back anyway, though.
So we did a resolution, I think, to go by what the state says. And that's what we've been trying to do, is follow the books. So that way, if anything ever happens to us, the state will help us.
Hopefully.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
that's been our understanding, because conference scared us, so we're like, okay, well, we're gonna do what they say. So that's what we're doing as far as the fines, because it says you shall. So back to the one who withdrew in the spring of 24 and then came in November and disbanded. So
Technically, they had a candidate committee, and technically that candidate committee was not administratively dissolved by you or disbanded by them. Or disbanded by them, and therefore, would have presumptively been required to file.
okay, so that would be the max for the first part, right?
And then the second one would be from the 18th to the 7th.
So 7,
Did you count the 18th or did you go to 19th?
18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I lost count.
21 days?
Stop counting at 20 because that's the
No,
max.
it can't be. Nobody else is the 20s.
Well, it would just be it would be the max.
It would be, no, for the second one.
October 18th to the 7th.
Yeah. How many days is that?
I'm counting right now.
13 and
21.
21 days, so it would still be,
Yep.
It's the max.
because it's over 20.
So. Okay. So I have Jonathan White, 11 days, $550. Yeah.
Got my calculator.
I want somebody to double check me.
That's what I'm doing. So 50. 550.
Okay. I have Deborah Hubbard, 8 days, $400.
Hold on 2 seconds. I can't work that fast. Will you calculate now, right?
Yeah, 8 days times 50, 400.
I have Keith Henderson, 10 days, $500.
Yep.
Brandon Stagnolia, 8 days, $400.
Yeah.
Marvin Robinson, 9 days, $450.
Yes.
Brad Stotts, 15 days, $750.
Yes.
Shane Deaton, 10 days, $500.
Yes.
Jean Ann Shaspinski Schaller, 7 days, $350.
Yes.
I have the, okay, okay. I didn't want to make sure I wasn't going too fast. Democrat Club, first report was due in April. 19th of 24, they turned it in November, so they get the max on that for $1,000. And then they missed the October 18th deadline, 4 days, so that'd be $200.
200.
Republican committee missed their April deadline, so they get the max of $1,000. Lindy Hubanks withdrew, and so she missed the April 19th deadline, which is a maximum of $1,000. And then the 18th, she missed that one by 13 days, did we say?
21 days.
21 days. And so it maxes out at $1,000.
Okay.
So I would accept a yay or nay.
I'll make a motion
Here we
to send out the letters to the candidates who were delinquent with their fine amounts, certified mail.
Okay.
Second the motion.
All right. I will make that unanimous. That will pass. Now, the money we take in, what happens to that?
What pot does that go in?
So it goes into what's called an election assistance fund, and it is sent to the auditor's office.
And what happens with it there?
It can go to, there's state statutes that it can go and be spent for, that the election board can request for those state statutes, or request for those funds to be spent specifically for those state statutes. I have never asked for it, it just sits in there.
Okay.
So do we know the statute off the top of our heads? Because I would love to use it for educational purposes and things like that.
I reached out to the State Board of Accounts and asked for it, and I've asked for the auditor for the actual state statute, like what the funds have, and I haven't received those yet.
So we need to find the statute.
Because I would think since the fees are coming from lack of education, that those funds be used for education.
I asked, like I said, I've asked the State Board of Accounts, I'll follow up with them, and I asked the auditor, I'm trying to remember, it was Kinley that I asked, and she said she was looking for it, I just don't remember, maybe a month and a half ago.
Pat, is that something you can find out for us?
Sure. Did you say election assistance fund?
Mhm.
Could it be
That's what-
election administration assistance fund?
I think
Yes.
that probably
Okay.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Looks like it's 311.6.52.
311, 6.52.
And the title of the section is that, and also says purpose administration fund. So it looks like it does provide for quite a few things. Carry out activities to improve the administration of elections for federal office. Maybe, I need to double check. That might be, I might have spoke too soon. That might have been on federal funding. I'll double check.
Okay, thank you.
Oh no, there's some county stuff. They're reimbursing counties for purchase of new voting systems, upgrade or expansion of voting systems. So there's some stuff in here. Yeah, I'll see if I can get you something.
Do we know how much we have in there now?
It's like 3,000-ish, whatever the fees were. I have it in the office. It's never been touched. It's just, I give the money to the auditor and they just deposit it. So, it's not even actually in like the clerk's budget. I literally take the cash and give it to them and they have to deposit and they have to do all that within their thing. So, but I can get the exact amount.
It's non-reverting as far as you know, right? It's a separate. It doesn't revert back to the general fund. I don't think it does.
I don't think so. No, it's not. No, I think it stays in that account.
I don't think it should.
It's
Yeah.
it's 3-something, 2.9-ish,
3,000-ish.
yeah,
Ish.
But I do have it in the office. I just don't remember off the top
That's
of my
fine.
head.
I definitely think that with the money collected from this, that there should be money there for education.
As long as the state statute, like,
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, figures it out, so yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to throw myself at the mercy of the election board and ask that the $1,000 fine be waived, because when I went to the state site to see if we owed that money or if we were subject to filing, it wasn't there. Our name was not on the list of organizations that need to file a report. And as soon as we found out, we've been at every meeting, we've been here, we've tried to make amends, try to get everything straightened out. And all I can do is ask.
Well,
I don't see anybody else here representing this, so.
I feel like we, as the election board, discussed in the last meeting, because all three of us, even the former clerk, when I talked to the former clerk that was here, everybody thought it was an annual.
right. We missed it too.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
No, that's my thing. So
Okay.
I personally, I mean, yes,
I've been
the
involved.
Indiana Election Board told us in the trainings, and they said, you know, that it is this, but, you know, they said your regular parties, your committees, your PACs, your candidates. I mean, yes, they gave us all of that stuff. But when you're at these trainings, it is like trying to drink from a fire hose. That's personally how I feel. I don't know if you two feel that way.
I think I agree with that. We missed it too. We didn't know. We had no until that a point we didn't know.
That's why I'm asking for leniency.
I don't have an issue with granting leniency to either party on that one because we missed it.
And I'll ask to have leniency on Republicans for their $1,000 too. If you do it for us, do it for them.
Are you gonna do it for
Well, I just
all
said,
of them? Was hers the same thing or different?
Lindy would fall under that too, wouldn't she?
As she was a candidate, not an annual.
But we didn't tell her in April that she needed to do anything, did we?
To withdraw?
To file a form?
I did not know.
You didn't know she needed to? Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to say that I didn't know, but it wasn't on my radar. She withdrawed. But, I mean, do I think she needs leniency? Yes, but that goes into the difference of being a committee of a general party, like being a candidate, and the candidates are supposed to be responsible for what they know, and giving great leniency to the parties because they're a general party, and like it's always been known as an annual. I don't have a problem giving leniency to all three of them, but as a candidate, how are other candidates that have been charged? And our response and our thing is candidates are supposed to be responsible for candidates and parties.
But it was it was the same miss though, collectively for all three.
Like I said, I don't have a problem granting leniency or granting, but I just think we need to make sure that we're looking at all sides of consistency.
Well, I think to me that is consistent because we've never had that happen before. And now we know that we need to look at that, but it wasn't their fault that we missed it either. So
I can't say that there's been a candidate that has withdrawn and there was not a fine. I don't know that. I know since I've been clerk, there has not, this is the first time it's happened, but for past, I don't know that.
but we're for today forward, like the past, like what happened before you, after you, like as a board now, I think we move forward. I don't really, to me, I don't care about the past at this point.
Did
I would
anybody
rather-
drop out? Did anybody else drop out and not file a form? Or file a form?
In this past election, no, Lindy was the only one that withdrew.
I don't have an issue with granting leniency to all three of them for what we didn't pick up either, what we didn't
April.
catch.
For the April?
For the April, yeah.
So effectively, what you're saying, you guys haven't enforced it in past years.
Well, we didn't even
So
know
that-
about it in past years.
So that, I mean, like, consistent with that, but you're opting not to enforce it this year since you missed it. And that moving forward, though, your plan is to enforce it. That seems to be what you guys are discussing.
Yes.
But everybody, I mean, these other forms, that was late.
And those all got reminders.
Yeah.
The CFA fours.
Yeah, and like I said, I am completely for it. It has been pounded in my head, consistency.
Right.
So I just want to look on that back end and like you hear that back end of like, can I ever say that we've ever had this happen before as an election board? And I don't know that. I've only been.
But I mean, the principal issue is the April. I mean, you guys are just talking about April right now.
Yeah.
And historically, April hasn't been enforced.
No.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Right. So I mean, it sounds like what you guys are saying is that you could make a motion that because you missed April this year, which you missed April in the past years before, that you're not going to go back and enforce April.
Yeah, we're not
now.
retroactive.
But that moving forward you are, and that therefore you're going to unanimously waive all April misses.
And moving forward, they'll get an
which is-
April
which is consistent with
reminder.
What happened in the
Yes.
past, but
So-
then it's
yeah,
also
and
establishing.
I mean, like I said, I'm good with that. I just
And
want to
moving
make sure
forward,
that we're thinking of all angles.
They'll get the reminder for that we messed up too by not looking at that and checking and not knowing. So I don't have an issue with granting leniency for that.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we grant leniency to the one candidate and the two parties for missing the April deadline.
I will second that motion.
I
And
will
then
third.
that's all of the Aprils, right? Those are the
Yeah.
only three that missed April.
Correct.
Wait a minute.
Is that true or no?
Are we doing the late for the pre-election too? Because if we just do April, then that means that Miss Eubanks would still owe for the pre-election too, because she owes 2,000. I think it's, so he's saying just April.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, whatever. Historically, you haven't enforced.
What we
So,
missed. What we missed. What we
Yeah,
haven't
you missed-
enforced. What we missed.
I didn't mean to say just April. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Hold
because
on.
I was like, wait, then that means
No, I'm
that.
sorry.
Okay.
It just-
I didn't mean to make it too complicated. Yeah,
For
Set it
the two parties and for Miss Eubanks, we are
granting leniency.
for pre-primary and pre-election. So we would,
They're just enforcing the annual this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving forward, we will be enforcing it and sending out reminders.
yeah.
So then,
But for this, just know for this election cycle for 2025, it's just for the two parties, the annual that's due in March.
Right, because there's no election.
It's off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's off.
okay,
Like
Okay.
the Democrat clubs was due on in January, but for the two general parties, theirs is due in March, which the Democrats have already turned theirs in, so they're good. But the Republicans is in March.
so then going back,
You had a motion. I didn't mean to interrupt you. You already had a motion.
It was
You
the
had a
April
motion.
thing.
clarify.
It was
No,
the
I'm sorry.
April thing that threw me off, and I'm like, but
You
wait a
already had a
minute.
motion. The motion was to grant leniency for those three for
For what we missed.
for the non-annual, and you were getting ready to second.
Yes, for the second for the 1,200, 1,000, and 2,000.
okay. So,
I second that motion.
second that, I will make that unanimous. So we will take that out.
My apologies for the complication.
That's okay.
So,
It gets like that sometimes.
so to clear all that up, Denny,
We owe $200.
you owe $200. Okay?
But get with Brad and get your
No.
other thing.
We'll get this.
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
right? That's back where I'm at.
Because that was for both. They had two. One was
Well, that's, Lindy did too.
right. So did
Okay.
they.
So,
Okay.
that's why I said, let's
That's
clear it
why
up.
I'm like, wait a minute, no, because I'm like, if we granted it for her for
I'm
both.
sorry, we don't know anything. I just heard the clerk say.
Get with Brad to get the other part fixed.
So,
Democrats owe no money.
okay, wait a minute, to confirm. We
Okay.
are not going to find fees for the Democrat club being late for the pre-primary and for the pre-election,
Right.
which was a total of $1,200.
Right.
For them, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then we are not going to charge a fine for the Republican because for the pre-primary. They were good in the pre-election, but for the pre-primary. And then for Ms. Eubanks, for the pre-primary and the pre-election, which is $2,000.
Yes.
Correct.
Because those are different forms than,
Okay, I just want to, because I'm like, no, you don't owe.
I just want to
Okay.
clarify that the reason they're getting excused, those are different forms that have to be filed than the CFA 4 forms that everybody else is getting fined for. I just wanted that to be,
It's not different forms.
Just different timing, right?
No, it's not different timing or forms. It's still CFA 4 forms.
Does it matter? I mean,
It's-
it's passed, we've figured it
Yeah,
out.
but, well, the way she's, because I'm gonna put this in a minute, it's not that it's different forms. We are
Okay.
just granting grace because as a board and as the party, it just went unnoticed by all of us.
okay,
It's not that it's a different form or to do it different times, it's just as a board.
okay.
Okay.
Grace.
So there's
Our leniency.
past failure to enforce, and so leniency now, enforcing moving forward.
But it's still a CFA, yeah.
Okay. Are we all good?
Very good.
Okay. So that takes care of the CFA 4 after all that. We're done. Right? We're not gonna be haunted by any more CFA 4.
Well, we have the annual, we have the stuff that was just turned in. Are you wanting to do that now, or are you wanting to,
Is that what's due?
that was due January 15th. That's the one that I just emailed you all of the copies
Mhm.
and everything. Are we wanting to push that off, or are you wanting to take care of that now?
Well, from looking over it, do you want to, I mean, you just said the thing about Bill Hoagland. Are we just going to administratively disband him?
So if we do, well, he's already disbanded. He has
Admit-
disbanded him.
But forgive it.
So, since he disbanded himself, we don't fall under that January 31st deadline. So, I mean, I feel like since,
Okay.
for us to administratively disband him, we'd have had to do that by January 1st, but where he filed his paperwork and he has disbanded himself, I feel like those CFA 4s can move to the next meeting, because I know that Pat needs to go, and I kinda
Yeah,
need to get
it's
going,
already
too.
after 5. I would like to get Pat's opinion on the chain of custody before we adjourn and,
Okay. So moving on to the absentee ballot
yes,
chain of
we can,
custody.
let's table CFA 4s. I'll make a motion to table the CFA 4s for this round that Michelle just sent out
Okay.
to our next meeting. But somebody's gonna have to second that.
I'll second that.
Okay. I'll make that unanimous.
But I will say I have gone through and looked at all of them and audited and made a list of who needs a letter and have questions about ones I didn't see to see if they've turned in or if they need
I've done
to.
my audit too, so we just, at that next meeting, we can get together with all of our notes and compare what we have.
Okay,
Okay. Chain of custody, ABS application chain.
because
of
I
custody.
have questions about this too. I specifically have several questions, especially after talking with Chris, the prosecutor, about this and knowing that they're gonna be changing this affidavit in the future with the state,
Wait, which affidavit?
on that ABS.
Okay.
ABS
But
17.
I would like to hear what you have to say though about it.
Well, I mean, so the information I have so far may not be complete. So I mean, like,
Okay.
I reviewed the state Indiana election divisions. There were some questions that were issued to the election division back in October, and I've reviewed the responses to that. And so I know that the general concern has to do with chain of custody, including when third party accepts absentee applications on behalf of someone and turns them in. There's 10-day requirements. Following, that the 10-day requirement should be noted on it. Then I also know that there's some concerns about documenting assistance with the absentee ballot form and how that documentation happens. And then is the question, generally speaking, what should happen with an absentee ballot or absentee application if that process is not followed?
Well, here's I guess what I want to know. So when you on the application, after the voter signs it and dates it, there's a little tiny line that you have to write, date received by the person who is filling out the affidavit, or the person that assisted, or what does
Yes.
it say, right? But then on the affidavit, you're also saying the exact same thing by filling out the affidavit. You're signing
Yes.
it and dating it. So how is that not redundant?
It
It's
is.
doing it twice.
But you do have the statute. There are two different statutes. One statute requires that it be on the application, and then the other one requires an affidavit.
Correct. So, but what I'm saying here is, not just the Democrats missed this. So when I went through and audited all of the ones that were turned in with an affidavit, there were quite a few others that weren't on the list. So to me, it almost looks like a select group was picked instead of all of them, because I've made a note of however many other ones there were that also did not have that chain of custody on there. To me, I feel it's a educational thing at this point, because if you look at the affidavit where they've turned it in and signed it and dated it, then you go look at the application where the voter has signed it and dated it, and if the date received is not on there, you can still figure out that it was turned in within 10 days from the day the voter signed it to the day the person signed the affidavit.
Okay.
Then on the affidavit, it's also saying that the date that the absentee ballot application attached to this affidavit was received on, it's dated on there. I guess my question is, if you have it dated on there, and you can determine that it was within the 10 days from when the voter signed it and dated it, you can tell that it fell within that 10 days.
Okay.
And when you sign the affidavit, you're affirming that you received it within that 10 days too.
When who signs the affidavit?
The person that assisted. So the absentee ballot application, the affidavit of the individual filing it. So the person who turns it in.
That they filed it within 10
Right.
days.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, yeah, not that it got filed with the
Right.
within 10 days. Yeah.
So how, to me, aren't you saying it? I guess you're saying it twice though, basically. You're signing it on both, saying that twice. It's a very small line that gets missed that I don't think anybody did intentionally.
On the application.
Yes, or maliciously. And to me, if we're gonna go after a certain group of people, then we should be going after everyone who didn't do it, not just some of them.
So who is not on the list that, because it might fall into the state statute that if it's a family member turning in for a household, there's other state statutes of like,
But what if they don't live in the same house?
so there's the state statute of like if it is a direct relative
Or power of attorney.
or power of attorney, it doesn't have to be with, it's that person that falls within that direct relative or power of attorney. There's statutes for that too.
Right, I know.
That's on the assistance statute.
Well, so go ahead, no, and say what you were gonna say, because those are my concerns. I don't feel that
So
people.
you're talking about enforcement. You're talking about like the extent to which. Okay, so the question is whether or not you guys should proceed with enforcement.
Well, it would go to the prosecutor, and he would just Chris, and Chris isn't gonna do anything. So
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what your action is, right? Like you can hold hearings on whether or not there's been a violation of the Indiana election laws, and then based on that, you can make your recommendation to the prosecutor as to whether or not they should proceed with litigation, with prosecution. That's typically the extent to it. I mean, and the Indiana Election Division's advice to, it cited numerous criminal codes that if somebody is actively involved in either forging any of the documents that are associated with it, or is fails to follow certain requirements of the Indiana voter law, then it's either Class A misdemeanor or level 6 felony, depending on what the violation is.
right. So I'm saying though that they did sign and date the affidavit, even if it was missed on the application. So it's not completely not there. It's there on one of the forms, right? But moving forward, what I'm trying to say, and I'm not saying it the way I want to say it, is it's easily missed because more than one person missed it. It's a very small line that where you date it that you received it, then you do the affidavit. After talking with the prosecutor, I feel that in the future, and this is a question I had for you, and he said he thinks that we can do this, is that, and this form may be different by the next election too. Can we require both parties to go to training? Can we as an election board say, we want both parties to have training? I obviously know we can't be the ones to do it and set it up, but we know people who can, and require them to do it for educational purposes. Because to me at this point, it's an educational issue. There's a lot of people who've missed it. And no one did anything maliciously or with well intent. It was just an oversight. So what is your opinion on that?
I'm not aware of any legal authority to order the parties to education from the county election board. I can look into that. I mean, I can certainly research that to find out if there's, but I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not aware of this committee, the election committee having the authority to order training. Now you can certainly strongly recommend it. It sounds like the type of recommendation that would be well taken. But I don't know that you have the authority to order it.
We have talked to the Democrat Party in the 9th District about having, kind of mini regional, mini district, educational things for that.
Yeah, can you find out, because Chris, we talked about this, so I want to know if we can do that, because he thought we could.
Okay, I'll look into it.
There are people who come in and put those on because they're using some of the district money to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know within both, I know I've talked to several clerks, and I know within the state there are several trainings that parties host to do those kinds of trainings. And it's, whether it's the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, there are meetings like that they hold that does all those things. So, I mean, that is out there. You just have to have people attend them and go to them.
I just hope they do, each side does it the same. I hope whoever's teaching them is teaching the same. Because as we found with the state, Democrats and Republicans don't agree on something that's supposed to be a state law. So whoever's doing these trainings, if, I'm going out and doing the training for this piece of paper for the Republicans, then she better be going and doing the same thing for the Democrats. And we're not doing two different things to get, not to get you in trouble, but cause confusion.
If you guys have a training set up and bring a trainer in to do it, you can do that. I can guarantee you the Democrats won't invite Republicans to that training session.
Won't or will?
No,
won't.
No.
If we set one up for...
If you set it up, I'm saying, if my district...
That would be a better idea.
There will be Republicans invited.
No, and I get that. I'm just saying that whoever teaches your class and whoever teaches this class are teaching the same thing, and not saying, oh, well, you don't have to fill out part D, F, and Q, and they're saying you have to, because then that's going to bring back the same kind of trouble we got right now, is people not on the same page.
Right.
It kind of looks like the practice is that we'll decide what we want to do it the best we can. You got to decide if we did it right, and you'll be fine. So that's...
That's
all education.
It's one of the things I wanted to look into with the funds that we collect with these fines, because I would rather see candidates get books, the red book, a candidate book with money, and I would also like to see some training for us to be proactive in that aspect. I
started asking people who were talking about running before they were filed, would you like to have a meeting for you? And I get one or two maybe that will actually show up for something.
Well, that's why I'd like to know if we can mandate it. Or require it.
I'll look into it,
Okay. So circling back here again to, we're on the chain of custody. So we have all of these, right?
I sent you the PDF.
Yeah, I've got the files pulled up.
Several. And some of them were done right, some of them were not, and I just sent you everything that was there.
Okay. So with all these, are we going to do anything with them?
Well, we have to determine that election law was violated, and then we would have to turn it over to Chris.
Typically, you would have a hearing.
Right,
Initially, it's whether or not there's reason to believe that there's an election law violation, and then you would have a hearing, and then in which case you would provide due notice to each individual that you are accusing, bring them in, they would have an opportunity to be heard. And then you would typically make your recommendation to Chris. I mean, Chris can act independently. I mean, he doesn't have to wait for you, but I mean, that's one way that it bubbles up.
So from the list, do you see any that he would want to pursue?
I don't have any I want to pursue, because basically, to me, and after talking to a state police detective, if they've signed the affidavit and they're saying that they received this application from this person with that time frame, they missed the line. I get that part, but they did fill out the affidavit. So I'm okay with that. But that's my opinion, and I've only, just graduated law school in August, so everyone else can tell me what they think, but that's how I feel about it. Plus, I feel like the affidavit is accounting for it. I know what election law says, but we also know from all the hearings we had over the stuff in the fall, that they found issues with the affidavit and it's going to be changed. So,
Well, they found issues with the affidavit of assistance.
but that's what this is. That's what we're talking about.
There's
There's
two different ones.
There's affidavit of assistance, which is
And
the person who
individual
assists.
filing, the two, is that what you mean?
Yeah, there's the person who files it on your behalf. Yeah, it's just
You're talking about two different affidavits.
Okay. I thought we were talking about the filing one, I'm sorry.
So there's the affidavit of assistance that's on the absentee application,
Mm-hmm.
which that's the one that
It's at the bottom.
That is the one that is like saying that they're not a part of the union or an employer. And correct me, I don't remember all of the specific verbiage of, it's like, I am assisting, I'm stating that I'm not thank you.
Yeah, I see it right here.
is that it?
I swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that I am not the employer of this voter, an officer, of the
Yes,
voter's
so-
union, or an agent of the employer or union of this voter, and I have no knowledge or reason to believe that the individual submitting this application is one, ineligible to vote, or to cast an absentee ballot, or two, do not properly complete and sign an application.
Yes, so that is the one that the state has made a mistake on. But then there's the affidavit of when you have a third person turning in a large amount, yes, and that's where's that number up there?
ABS 17.
Yeah,
That is-
17.
That is the second affidavit of,
Because that's the requirement that a person who receives a completed absentee
as a
ballot
third party.
application from an individual who's applied for the absentee ballot shall indicate on the application the date the person received the application and file the application with the appropriate county elected board election division not later than 10 days after the person receives the application.
But doesn't it kind of say the same thing in the filing one too? I
So-
have no knowledge of belief that the individual whose application I'm filing is ineligible to vote or cast. It says it in the filing one also.
So from the way I understand it is when they receive the ABS application, they put the date of when they received it from the voter. And then the affidavit that they get from the clerk's office when they turn them in has the date of when they're turning them in on that date. And that has to be within a 10-day window.
But you can
It has to,
deduce from that when the voter signed it, let's say it's like this one says 10/23/24, and then when the person came in and filed it with the clerk's office, they filed it on 10/24/24, you can figure out that that was within the 10 days of receiving it.
yes, but I have ABS applications that don't have when they received it on there.
Right, there's a
And so-
lot of them that don't.
I'm not saying that there's not a lot of them that don't. I turn those all in. I'm not saying that it's one party, it's one person. I am just reporting that I had ABS applications turned into my office that did not have chain of custody. And when they brought them in lump sums and they filled out the ABS 17 affidavit, I could not compare when they received them from the voter to when they turned them into the clerk's office. That's all I'm reporting.
Okay. But for me to say that I don't think that they maybe have missed the 10-day chain of custody, I have gone through and figured out that they didn't by the time the voter signed it and by the time the affidavit was filed.
Okay, I also had clients, or not clients, voters call in and say, well, I sent this in this time, and I had to send out second ABS applications because I had not received them from individuals. And then I processed the ones that I sent out as the clerk and got those back before I got the ones from individuals.
Okay.
And that's what had brought this up, because I started receiving calls from individuals of this.
And that was, when you started receiving calls, that was where, I don't know how to say it. It was a group of people that was collecting them versus the one lump sum the individual brought in. Right?
Yes, I had a couple individuals call and said, well, I mailed it in to,
Where they
I
sent it to.
said, well, they called and said, I still haven't got my ballot. And I'm like, okay, well, have you sent in your application? And we would look up and we had not received an ABS application request from them. And I said, well, did you call us and request it? And they said, no, I got a letter in the mail that had prepaid envelopes. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that was going to we don't have to talk incognito. It was going to the Democrat. Yeah, it was going.
He's right here.
I'm like, it was going.
I knew you were talking about.
Yeah, it was going to the Democrat club, or the Democrat headquarters, and they said that's how we mailed it in. And I said, well, we have not received that yet. And they're like, well, can we go ahead and get one from the clerk's office? And I said, absolutely. So we processed ours, we sent it out, and then we got, that's how that all came about. And so that is when Miss Nowling reported to me, she's like, well, I've got several. And this is the thing is, she reported to me that she said, I have several that don't have date of custodies and I don't have any of that. And so I'm like, okay, so that's how I reported that. I called the state. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to handle this? And they said, report it to the election board. And that is what I was done. That's what I've done.
Okay, is the ones that she had several, is that the ones that was brought in by the one individual, that group?
There is
Or
not,
was just a mix?
There's 53 of them in here.
there's
53, no, I mean 53 ones with affidavits, I'm sorry.
there are several that didn't do them, like,
Okay,
And
but
so-
we're not blaming one person or one group or anything like that. It's,
so the problem is we do know that some of
is that?
some of the groups are
This.
from the Democrat club mailings that came in, and so, I mean, I can't ignore that fact because there's like, the mailings are coming in, so, and
is that this list?
that list is a compiled of everybody.
Okay.
But several of those are from the Democrat club mailings that individuals are bringing in. But I think everybody is on that list.
There's some that aren't. So I found here like one of them.
And if they're not on that, then is it within that family member power of attorney?
Because I asked.
One of the things that we run into is we get an incomplete voter application. So we either try to get that corrected, go back to the voter, get them corrected, and get it back in. And that's where that date may be where they signed it, but they've not got the correct one. I told them, from now on, when we do this, if it's incomplete, send it to the courthouse. Don't worry about if it's right or not. Don't try to make it right. Send it to the courthouse. But you got to worry with it.
Yeah, then you reject it and go through the rejection process.
And if they were incomplete, yes, I mean, that's exactly what we would have done.
We have tried
But
in
without
past
the
because
date of
somebody
custody on there,
knows-
wouldn't they be incomplete?
Say again.
But without the date of custody on there, wouldn't they be incomplete?
So that's,
That goes from the state, that is not the voter's fault. That is at no fault of the voter. The chain of custody date that they're coming in, that is at no fault of the voter, and we, as the clerk's office, are still required to process.
and I mean, I understand their position on it. I mean, I think that there's an argument to be had under the Indiana code that the application is not completely filled out, correctly, if it requires that date. But I mean, like, the state has been pretty consistent about, like, if it's not the fault of the voter, then the applicant. Now, they're even more consistent about that when it comes to ballots. I mean, like, when it comes to ballots, I mean, if a ballot is processed and it's not the fault of the voter, that there's something wrong with it, then it should be counted.
Right.
I'm not. You're talking about the election division, right? That the election
Yes.
division said that
The
it's not
election,
fault.
well, Secretary of State and the Indiana Election Division said that chain of custody, when it comes in, chain of custody on the absentee application, when it is being turned in, when large amounts are being turned in by individuals, if the chain of custody is not on the ABS application, that is not a voter's responsibility to do. And
It's
that's
not.
at no fault of the voter.
Right.
That goes
That's-
into holding the person who is turning them in accountable for that.
Right.
Right.
Because the ABS application chain of custody and the affidavit of turning in applications, the ABS 17, those dates have to fall within a 10, that's how your checks and balances of, so it's not a double whammy of like, I got this on this day and then this, that's not this is the check, this is the balance of making sure that.
And I get that, but I also get that, like, if it was missed, and it was missed on a lot of them, that the date wasn't on the application when they received it. But they're affirming under penalties of perjury on the filing affidavit that they received it in that amount of time, and you can see from the date that the voter signed it to the day they turned it in that it was within the 10 days. So we know that they didn't violate that.
So this was signed in August.
But if you remember though, Zach said that she's off, we're done with that one.
Okay, that's fine.
But
I just want to make sure
once
everybody's
again,
still beating that.
We're not
one.
on that one.
But
Yes,
once
you're right.
again, that is, with what you just said, yes, okay, so say the ABS application, and we're gonna use simple dates. Say the ABS application is signed January 1st, and then the ABS 17 application affidavit comes in with all of the applications, and it is signed January 19th. Obviously, those dates hypothetically don't match, because this is the 1st, this is the 19th. But what if the voter didn't sign, the voter can fill that application out at any point in time they want. But say that voter did not give that ABS application to John Doe until January 12th. So that application was given from the voter to John Doe on January 12th, and he turned it in on the 19th. In that theory that you just had, that counts. But if that chain of custody is not on that paper, we're going from January 1 to January 19.
But
When the voter gave it to the person turning it in on the 12th and not the 19th. And does that make sense?
it does, but in all of these that I've gone through and looked at, that didn't happen on any of them. They were all within that time frame.
Okay, but that's our job to determine that. That's what we're here to determine.
That's what I'm saying. I
And
thought.
so that's what we need to determine and see if that's the case, because
I have gone through all of these. And from the day the voter signed it to the day that it was turned in, it was within 10 days.
okay.
So is that your motion?
No, I'm just saying that. Like that's what I thought that's what we were tasked to do.
Yes.
And I did my homework. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
So have you done that?
Yeah, I've looked at them too.
Okay.
So I'm just
So
waiting on
you know
motion.
that. So you know that, because I will say I have not had it. When I looked at it, I did not look at it in that perspective. You saw that a little bit different than I saw that. I went off basically what the Indiana election attorney said, and the Secretary of State said that if it's an ABS, it's supposed to have the chain of custody on the application. On the affidavit, it's supposed to have it. It's supposed to be within a 10-day window.
But then, because we didn't have it, and that was the concern, when you emailed these to me, I went through every single one of them. It took me hours
Okay.
and looked to see from the day the voter signed it to the day that someone came in and filed it and did the affidavit that it was within that 10 days, and they all were. So that's when I've talked with Chris about that too, about moving forward, because I don't feel that anybody did anything maliciously. And that's when I came up with the education, because that was something he suggested too.
We definitely look into the education component. I mean, and when it comes to the criminal proceeding, and like, you know, they would have to demonstrate that it was done knowingly or intentionally.
And yeah, and it
That's-
wasn't.
Yeah.
None of it was, really.
We've operated under the theory that the single page affidavit took place assigned bottom. It was within a 10-day period of time.
Right.
If
Because
we
it's
looked at it,
redundant.
if we had a ballot came in that was theoretically signed on the 1st, we got it on the 5th, or say we got it on the 15th, we would date it at the 15th, and then sign the affidavit when we turn it in, which would be 10 days after the 15th.
And that's what I went and looked for. Knowing that that date wasn't on so many of those, I went and checked the affidavit to determine, to make sure that it was within that time frame, and they all were.
Our understanding was the affidavit took place where you didn't have to go through and sign each one of the applications. That you could fill, you had the applications, you signed the affidavit to cover all the, if you had 20
Yeah, see, I know.
applications, you did not have to sign each one of them.
And see, we, as in our studies, I know that the voter can fill that ABS application out at any time.
Right.
And that date, what the date the voter signs is not the pertinent date, well, if they're turning it in, they can turn it in at any time, but the pertinent date is the chain of custody if a third party's coming in. So for me, an individual could sign it on January 1 and it doesn't get turned in until May when applications are need to be turned in, because that's when the voter then turned it to that third party.
Right, and I get that part of it, but for this purpose, for this batch that we're going through, you can tell by going through all of them that they were done within the 10-day time frame.
Okay. I have not looked at it that way.
So it sounds like you are.
I don't want to do anything with them. I think we need to educate better in the future. That's what I think.
So there'd be a motion to not proceed with.
Well, yes, it would be. I was waiting. I thought you were going to say something else. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I was like looking at you. I thought you had something else to say.
No. I mean, you guys. It's up to I'm here to advise you on legal issues. I mean, but when it comes to policy decisions, I mean, at the end of the day, you guys have to make a determination as to whether or not you believe that there was a violation, or that there's sufficient information that there was a violation of election law. And if you don't believe that there was, then you don't proceed.
I don't believe that there was a violation because it's within the 10 days, and also because I don't think anyone did it knowingly or intentionally. And I think moving forward, we need to educate better. For 2026, whenever we see what the new application looks like, that's when I would really like to have that training for everyone.
I 100% agree with education.
And you looked at all of the affidavits that were turned in, the ABS 17s, compared to the application that were turned in, and it was in that 10-day window. I have not checked that date like that. I have not checked those dates of that time frame like that specifically. I looked at it as just, it wasn't turned in this date to this date.
And there were a few
Here's the law, here's the issue. I'm reporting this is what has been turned into the office. So I will go off of, if you two have seen that, they are all within that 10-day window. I will go in off trusting of what you two have said.
I mean, and again, just like with state, it's all interpretation.
Yeah. I think too, this isn't something that the prosecutor is going to want to waste their time on. I don't think that it's something that is going to go any further than this. So for me, I would like to be seen as an election board that's trying to be proactive, trying to make sure people are getting that information instead of being punitive. And so clearly if there's a violation, just like on CFA 4, that one's much more cut and dry. But yeah, I've been through them all and I don't see that anybody knowingly or intentionally violated anything.
Not on that batch.
I'm really sorry, but I absolutely have
We
to
do.
go.
You're right. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You guys keep rolling. Nice to meet everybody.
All right, you too, thank you.
I'll see you Friday probably.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm doing
So-
when I talk to you in October about it.
I will make a motion
They
to
might have some business.
Thank you, guys.
say, based upon Chairperson Lewis and Board Member Center, that their review of the dates of the ABS application dates turned in to the ABS 17 affidavit turned in, it is within that 10-day window, and that there is no election violation found.
And again, it is not that first case, it's just those.
Right. That one's null and void at this point.
Okay. That's the one that I had the issues with.
So did you just make the motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Do you want to hear the motion again?
No, I heard most of it.
I made a motion based upon Chairperson Lewis and Board Member Fetter's review of the dates of ABS applications, dates signed by voters, and dates signed by third person turning in ABS 17 affidavits still fall within that 10-day window.
Yes.
It took a long time, but I went through every single one of them. Yes.
And the thing is I mean, if we would have communicated that way, I would have looked at it that way. To me, it's just the state says, if it's not on there, it's not on there. You have to report this. And
I wanted to double check. I talked with Chris and I talked with a detective at ISP and they said the same thing. We're okay. But moving forward, I think.
And I will tell you that when the state advised me to call the state police and ask my questions, I talked to a state police officer and he advised me different on that. He said it was very cut and dry.
That's not what I was told. But it doesn't matter at this point. We are moving forward. In the future, I want to do a training or figure out a way to have better education and training. It's not giving legal advice if we have someone here doing it, but also the instructions on how to do things is not legal advice. We can do all of those things. I'm glad he's gonna check into seeing what we can mandate, like require, but going back, I don't think anybody did anything intentionally malicious or with ill intent. And that line on the absentee application is very small and very easy to miss. It's very easy to miss.
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying it is. I'm
not accusing you of that. I'm just saying
I'm
I
not
think
saying you're not.
I think if we can deduce that it came from within that 10-day time period based on the 2 documents, I don't feel comfortable going after anyone.
Well, based off of what we've already been told is, even if we try to push something, it ain't going nowhere. Nobody did anything wrong. So it ain't going nowhere.
I guess my question is then so as an election board, are we going to say they have the education? Because that's where I feel like the legal problems come in, is if say they have the education of it and the training's there and we still are getting ABS applications that don't have chain of custody,
then we
and in the ABS 17 affidavit has that date and they're not matching, or even if they are within that 10-day window, I do not feel comfortable saying, okay, I can't report this. I mean, does that make sense? I mean,
I don't think that's where we're at yet, though. So I do agree. I understand what you're saying. I think we need to be proactive and get education. Have Pat advise us on that for the future. When we get the application and affidavit for 2026, I think we need to have him go over that with a fine-tooth comb with us and figure out what we need to be educating people on. And if we can require that training, I think that we can. We'll find out. And then at that point in the future, if we're doing those things to be proactive about it and we're still getting them like that, then yeah, I think we'll have to look at it differently.
yeah.
I think people are going to be scared of this now. I think because we brought enough information out of these dates, I think whoever, goes out and gets these absentee ballot, absentee applications and handles them, I think they're going to be a little bit more cautious now.
Our problems in 2026
that's
may be
our hope.
completely different than what they were this year too. We may not have any issues. It just depends on.
Yeah. Well, I think as a board, instead of the clerk's office taking all the responsibility of processing the ABS applications, I think it's going to be pertinent that, because it does say a bipartisan representation, I think that it's going to be pertinent that you and Jessica, or whoever, the Democrat and Republican, is coming in and actually checking the ABS applications, and then once you two as the bipartisan representation, the clerk's office doesn't even start looking at them and processing for the ballots until it's been approved through you all's board.
I'm okay with that, and I'm also okay with talking to both party chairs and saying that we need an absentee board. It can't just be us doing all of it or you.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have to have more people.
And that's actually, the chairs would have to find those people, but that actually is going to the council and then requesting more funds through the council, because that means we have to pay them.
Well, I'm happy to split my funds. Like I'm happy to give mine up for that. I don't care. Because I would rather see it done more proactively. And you can't do it all. We can't do it all. Looking through however many hundreds of them that come in, right? So I think 2025 for me should be a year where we're trying to plan for 2026 and iron out those things.
Yeah, and I will say in several counties, and I've talked to almost all the clerks in the county in one way or the form, is a lot of counties have where they have, when you can start absentee applications can start coming in, they have a bipartisan representation board that sits there all day, every day, and processes those and checks those and verifies those that the party chairs have set up. And at one point in time, I think our county did that.
I think we
before
could maybe
Missy.
revert back to something similar to that.
But you're looking at, $100 a day, plus mileage, plus per diem per person, so
Is it daily or can they do them in batches? Like we've done in the past?
if you're doing an absentee board, I mean, they can do it, but if they do it like every other day, you're still looking at $100 a day, plus their mileage, plus their per diem for that day.
Well, would it be $100 a day if they,
It's 50 per person. Because you have to have bipartisan representation, because
Yeah.
no, I get that part, but what
So-
I'm asking is, I don't know that it would need to be every day. And I would think that if they would come in and approve a bunch of them at a time like we have in the past,
yes, I mean.
so it wouldn't necessarily need to be every day, but I don't,
But
like,
you're-
I'm not,
Each time.
I'm not saying,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're
I'm
not saying every
it's
day, you're saying
I'm
each
just
time they
saying
come in.
Every time they come in, it's
Okay.
$100 a day, plus their mileage, plus their per diem. So average, just say $200-ish.
well, I didn't think you meant, I don't think I think we were saying the same thing,
Yeah.
saying it differently.
So, I mean, if we do that, we can take we can start taking ABS applications. I'd have to look at the specific date. But I mean, if we do it, twice a week to process, you're looking at 200. I mean, you could be looking up to an extra $1,000 to an extra couple $1,000.
So
So, depending on how many you do and how long.
we don't have to do any of that this year because there's no election. But
But some of our funds from fines could potentially be used for that too. We need to find that out.
The state, yeah, and I will say that, I said, but we will have to do it at some point in time this year because 2025 preps for 2026 budget.
Right.
right, so the budget, is that just something that you do, or is that something that everybody does, or how does? Because we've asked several times about the budget.
Well, the
so
statute says
how-
we're supposed to be involved in it, but we never have been.
The
have been.
statute says that the election board gives recommendation and then the recommendations come to the clerk and the clerk provides the budget and gives it to the auditor.
So for this year,
I
we
take your
should,
recommendations of what you all think and then I create and turn it in that way.
so then for
So we
this
need to
year,
know
we
more
need to be
about
involved in
budgets.
that.
All right.
That's what you're saying, right?
I would take the recommendation, I've sent you guys the budget, you guys see the budget.
But we haven't helped you with the election portion of it ever.
I have not changed the election portion of it since, other than when we went from the vote center, we went from 6 precincts to voting to 2. But like, the numbers have been the same since COVID of what they make, of their mileage, their per diem, that none of those numbers have changed.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I'm just
I
saying
think some of them need to be changed.
for this year, for the next year's budget, when we're working on it this year, for the election portion of it, we need to be helping you with that.
Yeah,
'Cause we have-
you can give me your recommendations of what and then,
Okay.
because the microvote contract is what it is, the no ink contract is
I'm
what it
gonna
is.
have to go.
Those things are set
Right.
via contract. The commissioners are the ones who set the pay for everybody. I don't do anything with that.
So the commissioner set the pay?
Yeah, your commissioners set your pay for your poll workers. Commissioners set the mileage rate, or the per diem rate, commissioners set, they control all that. That's why it's not really changed, other than they had the COVID pay, and then the next year when COVID pay went away, that primary was really, really hard to get poll workers, so then the commissioners added that COVID pay back. But your commissioners set your pay for what your poll workers make, your commissioners set the per diem for the day. We go off of, I think the state sets the mileage for election.
This county is way under,
On mileage?
on mileage.
I think,
Way under.
Because I know like,
But we're way over in other things.
but
Yeah.
jury mileage and election mileage, I think that is set because the county pays 41 cents a mile for mileage. And,
It's way under what it should be.
yeah, so, but that's set by commissioners.
Okay. Okay, we got way off topic.
So,
Yeah, we did.
Chain of custody.
We're done with that.
we're done with that.
We are done with that, okay. Just
Everybody,
making clear.
right, I made the motion, Jessica seconded, and you,
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Yes.
that- Because then we got off on everything else. 2025 election board dates.
Is there a particular time that's better, or I really can't do any time before 4.
there are some things come up in my life that is gonna kind of make difficult for evenings. That are just some personal issues that have come up. But during this election cycle, or during this election year, we do not have to have a meeting every month.
I don't think we would need to either.
It's not a thing that, you know, we're having to have this every month and,
Right.
or whatever, because there's no specific stuff that has to be done. I do need,
We really only have CFA 4s for this time to get done. That's really our next business to take care of
Yeah.
in a meeting.
and you don't, if we don't publish, the chairperson can call a meeting at any point in time. The chairperson can call the meeting, set the agenda, and send that, and I can post that. That is the responsibility of of the chair of calling those meetings. So if it's not that there's anything that is needed to be done, I don't want to say it's pointless.
That's where miscommunication came for me in the one email. I thought when you were asking for this meeting, we needed anything for it, I thought you meant like documents for this meeting, like what you hand out to us. I did not know you meant prepping the meet, like what you've done in the past. That's not how I took that email. So that was on my part, didn't respond because it didn't need anything. Because if I needed something, I would have said yes. But I thought you meant like you were making copies of something or whatever for this meeting. I didn't know that you meant the agenda and everything else.
I feel like the 95% of the responsibility of this board has fallen upon the clerk and the clerk's office.
Well, I don't, because
And
I feel like that you haven't asked us. Like we've said many times that we would help and do whatever, and then when we try, I feel like we get questioned for it, and we're happy to do extra and do more.
I have reached out. We can have a conversation, or this can be in the minute, or we can get through the agenda. I don't care which one we do.
Well, let's do the dates,
Yeah.
because I don't care if we have them every day
Okay.
or every month. I'm sorry.
So
Back around again.
Sorry.
I'm trying to stay on track.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to go because it's after 6.
Yeah. So we need one more meeting at least soon to get these CFA 4s done.
Or in February sometime, yeah. I think.
Or do we push them off to March? I'd like to get this stuff done.
I think it's still going to require 2 meetings, but I mean, it could be that because we have to evaluate the ones that were just turned in, but the regular parties are not due until March. Don't quote me, the 3rd. I think it's March 3rd. Regular parties, well, I can look at the text.
Coming back in
March,
March a little bit.
February
I think March 3rd is the regular parties.
Monday, March 3rd.
Is it March 3rd that says? So the Democrat has already turned theirs in, so I'm just waiting on the Republicans. And they can turn it in at any point in time. We do need to go over the CFA 4s that were sent in. And then we'll have to notify those people and then have a hearing. And then once we have the hearing, then we need to assess if there's fines. So potentially 1 to 2 meetings, depending on how you want to do that.
But you're gonna send letters out on these that we already did. Right? For fines.
Yes, when
We're done with those, we're good with those.
yes, he will get me the letters and his because So I guess that's where I'm kind of confused on some things too, of like what he's doing and what you guys are doing and what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like it has got very, very confusing, and that's where I feel like there needs to be some conversations. Because his contract says that he will create letters and do those things, and so
Yeah, we're gonna have him do it.
I'm not the chair, she is.
But that's what we signed the contract for, right?
Yeah, but you're the chair, so is that my responsibility to tell him to type those? Like, that's what I'm trying, but that can go off, that doesn't have to be in the agenda. Like, I just feel like we need to decide on who's going to take what responsibilities, and, because the board's never had an attorney.
We set a meeting
So-
for February.
February 11th at 4 o'clock.
Okay, I let you guys know in an email a week and a half ago that I will be out of,
Yeah, she'll be on vacation and I'll be out of town too.
I
in
will be
San
out of
Diego.
town from the 7th to the 17th.
Right, 7th through the 17th?
Mhm.
Yeah. I did see that.
February 19th? No, you're still out, right?
17th, she's back.
I'll be back in office on the 18th. The 17th we're closed as the county.
It's President's Day.
So,
What date?
February
What date?
19th to 4?
I'm gonna say yes for now. I have a lot of stuff coming up too.
I mean, I can do before the 7th. I'm just out on the 7th. But I mean, I know that's just like next week, so.
Yeah. What's the 7th?
I could do the 5th.
I cannot do the 5th. I have 20 CSX special agents coming to Louisville that day that I have to.
All right, February 19th at 4 o'clock. It's our next meeting.
19th, 4 o'clock.
And we can play it by ear.
And I mean, it shouldn't take that long because we're just assessing of who, and then,
Okay, so I,
Have any others come in since you sent us the ones that you've gotten already on the CFA 4s? I think that date
What
was
was
like
the
the
last one I
21st when you
sent
sent
you?
that.
do you remember which one was the last one?
Bill Hoagland.
That's the last that I received.
Okay.
I have that we have one. I have that we have one
Sorry.
candidate. I have that we have one candidate that has not turned in. That candidate has been notified. I notified the party chairs, like I said, that Saturday. On the candidates that hadn't turned it in the day of, I started calling all of the candidates that hadn't turned it in. That candidate did respond to the text that I sent. And then the only one that's not been turned in is the Republican Party, but it's not due until March 3rd. So I have one candidate that has not submitted. But I didn't know if he had submitted to you or maybe.
Sent what? His CFA 4? It's a he? You said he?
The candidate.
You said he, I thought. I don't know who you're talking about, but I don't have, no one's turned anything in to me.
Okay.
I don't have anything. Okay, so I am to contact Pat to get a letter written for the fines. Right?
I mean, are we gonna have a discussion of like board roles, or are we gonna have?
I would just reach out to him per his contract and ask him if he can draft the letters for us for the fines.
I do need, election board members to sign the county certification of voter verified paper audit trail for DER voter systems and county inventory. We have 65 machines that are DREs that we use for election. We have 68 VVPATs, which is like the little printer things. And we have 100% compliance of all election DREs that are covered by VVPATs, and that has to be sent into the state. And oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Just for the, but that is due February. And it's the same kind of audit where we had to do like all of the serial numbers that went to the Secretary of State of all the, it's the same thing. This is just for the BB pads. I'll get that sent tomorrow.
Nobody's here for open discussion. That's that. Any other new business or old business?
Nope. I don't have anything.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
We've discussed what I wanted to talk about, which was the just education. So
The next meeting will be February 19th at 4 to finish up the CFA 4s.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I second.
All right, we're done.